Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing very well. Yeah, so the time has come. The time has come for us to discuss this topic here on this channel. I've been meaning to make this video for a while. I just didn't know how I would approach it. I didn't know how I would structure the video and stuff like that. But really, there is going to be no structure. There's no structure to this. It's just going to be a rant. It's literally just me venting because I've had enough. I'm upset. I'm really annoyed. I have a lot to get off of my chest, and I know you guys do too. So this is just going to be a venting session. And of course, as you can see from the title, today we are going to be discussing the horrible trend of Hollywood cancelling everything. Literally everything. It seems like all of the shows that we take a chance on these days end up being cancelled. I'm going to dive into why I think this is happening, some of the reasons that the studios and streamers may have, but also my personal thoughts on the situation. But it's mostly just to give us a platform to discuss, so feel free to vent and share your thoughts down in the comments as always. And before we dive into the video itself, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and make sure you turn your notifications so that you can be told when I upload next. Now without further ado guys, let's get into this. So yes, everything is cancelled. Everything is cancelled. I'm making this video following the recent news of the cancellations of both My Lady Jane Grey coming from Amazon Prime and Dead Boy Detectives coming out of Netflix. But I mean, there are hundreds upon hundreds of examples of recent series that have been cancelled, particularly from these streaming services, and especially after just one season of existence. And I'll put some examples up here. Yep, sorry if any of these trigger you, by the way. A trigger warning. I know that this is a very upsetting topic and many of you guys will have some strong feelings and opinions, especially directed towards Hollywood on this, but just to give you guys reminders of all of the great shows that we have lost, here they are. Here are some examples of what I'm talking about if you weren't already aware. It's gotten outrageous. It's literally so freaking ridiculous and I'm over it. I'm tired. But before we dive into my thoughts and the opinions that I've seen a lot of people share from a TV lover's perspective, I guess I could try and put myself in the studio's shoes to at the very least explain why these things are happening. So first reason is of course money. Hollywood runs on money. It's an industry, it's a business, and all of these studios and streaming services want to make money. Now, when it comes to the streaming services, wouldn't it be nice? When it comes to the streaming services, most of them aren't profitable. Most of them aren't profitable and they ain't making money. Money is a faraway concept in their eyes. Profitability is a faraway concept. The tech industry really poured a huge one on Hollywood when it came to streaming, selling them a dream, selling them a lie when it comes to streaming, because actually most of these streaming services are not profitable. And it's become extremely apparent, especially after last year's strikes, that the current business models that a lot of these streamers are working under is not beneficial from a profitability standpoint and also from a creative standpoint. So what are we really doing here? But that's a discussion for another day. When it comes to these cancellations, the easy answer for why they're happening is of course because these TV shows aren't making these studios and streamers the money that they need to. Now let's interrogate that a little bit more, getting deeper a little bit, because with streaming it's a very different business model to that of traditional television, because when you had network television, all of that good stuff was being paid by advertising. And some of you guys will know that there are these annual advertiser conferences. I can't remember what it's called, but it's essentially when all of the studios kind of go to a fancy place somewhere in America and they show off all of the new shows that they have. They'll have promotions and trailers and all of that to show off to the advertisers, being oh, don't you want to sell ads on our shows? Oh, look, this is what we have to offer. You kind of seduce them, like, oh, come to us, come to us. But that's how they would fund the traditional network TV shows. And so, you know, networks like ABC, for instance, that's still how they're running in that traditional business model. But when it comes to streaming, it's a whole different ball game, or should I say monster? It's a whole different monster, because for the streamers, the product isn't the TV show itself, it's the streaming service. We as subscribers are paying a monthly subscription fee to gain access to a huge gargantuan library of movies and TV shows and even games on apps. And so the product there isn't the individual TV show. It's not like they can go to advertisers and sell a specific series. The product is the overall platform. And as we've started to see as the years have gone on in this streaming era, that has led to the devaluation of these individual projects. Definitely, hands down, there is no question that the individual projects in a streaming platform no longer have that same value, especially not in the streamers' eyes, because they're looking across their horizon and they're seeing thousands upon thousands of titles in these cute little rectangular boxes, and they don't really care about the individual titles anymore. The executives only care about these titles insofar as they continue to draw in the audience and keep them subscribed to that platform so that they continue to pay that monthly subscription fee. And hey, if we can even get new audiences, okay, to come on board to the streamer, that would also be phenomenal. But as long as there is very minimal churn, which is when people unsubscribe, when there's nothing of interest that is on the platform, as long as you can keep that to a minimum, that's all that these streamers and executives care about. And so, of course, with the infinite wisdom of the executives and with the help of algorithms and AI and whatever else they have going on in those offices, these people have all these calculations and these metrics and such to determine which shows continue on the platform and which shows end up being axed. And we have seen time and time again that these executives are ruthless and they are willing to axe a show if it does not perform to the standard that they expect. And whilst us fans might throw out all of these metrics of success, like a good Rotten Tomatoes score or a good audience score or good reviews, or, you know, even being featured in the top 10 lists of these very same platforms, whilst we're shouting out like, listen, this is how successful the show is, like, why are you doing this? Well, the executives don't care about any of that at the end of the day, because they have their own metric of success, and that is how many subscribers remain subscribed for that show and how many newcomers did we get off of the back of the success of the show as well. And if those numbers are low, that's when you see the axing take place. That's when the guillotine comes out. So that's the important thing for us viewers to remember. We might be shouting out like, oh, this series had such great reviews, why did Netflix end up cancelling it? Well, it's because despite the great reviews, not enough people tuned in to watch it. Netflix only cares about great reviews and even awards insofar as it generates profit for them, meaning it keeps subscribers on the platform and gets new viewers. If the project doesn't do any of that, then it's not worth much to Netflix. It'll get some buzz for about a week or so, maybe generate a couple of articles, but then it'll just sit there amongst thousands upon thousands of other titles that it has on that platform. Now, another reason why I think streamers are so willing and eager to get out the guillotine whenever a series doesn't immediately hit is because a lot of these streaming shows are actually quite pricey. A lot of these streaming shows come with a hefty price tag, and we've seen what happens when those funds are pulled away from the show. Umbrella Academy season 4. Clearly these shows are really expensive because streaming shows very early on in the streaming era garnered a reputation for being of high quality, right? I mean, if you think about the first shows of the streaming era like House of Cards and Orange is the New Black, it had great production value. It had a higher quality feel to it than a lot of the network series that many of us are kind of tired of. And so streaming shows kind of set themselves apart from network TV TV and associated themselves with prestige television, with the likes of like HBO and Showtime, and that was a very successful model for them, and it garnered a lot of subscribership for them initially, but now it has to keep it up. Now it has to keep it up, on top of the fact that we all have attention spans of 3-year-olds, and so if you don't have a new thing coming out literally every day, it doesn't even matter how top quality your previous project was, because we've already moved on, and that just makes for an extremely expensive endeavor. Which brings me back to what I said earlier, and that is streaming as a model clearly isn't working. But again, that's a discussion for a whole different day. But that does present another reason for why streamers are so ready to hit the red button whenever a series doesn't blow up in a huge way immediately upon release, because it is going to be pricey if they do make additional seasons, and they want to make sure that they get a return on that investment. And because traditional ad revenue isn't up for grabs, that return needs to be low churn and even additional subscribership, and if that's not getting done in the first season, then that's when they need to axe the show. Now, the high price tags of these prestige shows are also combined with the fact that a lot of these streaming shows are modeled after the British system. It's very different to the traditional American network TV system, where you have a solid 22 episode season across 10 months, and then you have a bit of a break over the summer as the writers get to writing the follow-up season, and then you're back at it again in the fall, and then it keeps on going ad infinitum. Well, with British television, it's a little bit different to that, and that's yet another video that I've been thinking of doing just on that topic alone. But I have seen many Americans dismayed by the state of their television these days, and I can't help but just laugh, because this is British TV. This is British television to a T. You have 6 to 10 episodes per season that are produced whenever inspiration strikes, like literally whenever the writers are able to finish up that storytelling, that's when you get a new season. It's not quite as reliable as that 10-month structure that network TV has in the US, and so it's funny to see so many people crumble and fall to their knees at the state of television these days. To me, it's just a very familiar format, but it does mean that streamers and studios are more likely to axe a series, because if they know that not only is that series going to be super pricey, but the writers haven't even gotten started on season 2, and season 2 might be coming in 2-3 years, where the hype surrounding the show is well and truly dead, yeah, that's also not going to be a great incentive for them to greenlight another season. And I think that's why we tend to see cancellations for shows that are a little bit more out of the box, sci-fi shows, for instance, fantasy series, right? First of all, they're going to be a bit pricier because of all of these special effects and the sets and the costumes and hair and makeup involved in bringing that world to life. But also, if you have a case where it's going to take a lot of time for a follow-up season to even happen, that would definitely make studio heads rethink greenlighting another season if it doesn't immediately hit with general audiences. So now that I've spent my time kind of rationalizing what the studios are thinking and why they're doing what they do, now let's get down to the rant, because I hate it. I literally hate it. Like, I understand the reason. I just broke it down for you guys, right? We understand, we get it, money, blah, 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 need to make a profit, blah, 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 aren't making a profit anyway, blah, blah, blah. we get all of that good stuff. But at the end of the day, we hate it. We hate it, we hate it, we hate it. First of all, these streamers are literally shooting themselves in the foot, because it's making me as a viewer reluctant to even try anything. Like, yeah, I'm just like, oh, so you want me to go ahead and check out a TV series and like have a great time with it, fall in love with the characters, get invested in these actors and performances and whatnot, only for you to switch off the tap as soon as I'm done? What's the point? Like, it's making me reluctant to even give any of these shows a try. These days, I feel like the only surefire bet on these streaming platforms is literally a movie. Literally a movie or a limited series. But the TV shows that they introduce to us with like one new season, yeah, it always makes me feel a bit trepidatious. I'm always a bit nervous because I'm like, okay, but what if I do fall in love with the show and then it disappears right in front of my eyes? Like, I checked out both Dead Boy Detectives and My Lady Jane Grey, and I had a fun time with both of them. I didn't adore them, I will say. I didn't adore them, but I had a fun time with them, and I was looking forward to the follow-ups, especially for My Lady Jane Grey, which is just crazy and wacky and weird. And now that's just gone. Like, now it's just in the garbage, and I'm just like, man, like, what a freaking waste. I'm just sick and tired of this happening. That's number one. They're shooting themselves in the foot by making me lose confidence in their platform. Like, if you want me to stay subscribed, then make sure that the time that I'm investing and the effort that I'm investing into your new series is actually worthwhile, and then I'm actually going to get a follow-up. Because otherwise, best believe I'm unsubscribing. Like, I'm already unsubscribed from Disney Plus and from Amazon Prime. I just dip in whenever I see something that's of interest. Netflix was already walking on thin ice, but then they gave us Chaos, and I'm like, okay, well, Chaos is good. Chaos is good. Okay, but again, if they cancel Chaos, then what reason will I have to stay? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's really frustrating me. It's really making me angry and lose confidence in these platforms. And if that continues, I will be unsubscribing, and I'm sure many people feel the same way, and that's when they'll see the churn numbers really go up and out of the roof. So right now, Netflix is the streaming platform with the lowest amount of churn, and last I checked, Apple TV Plus has the highest amount of churn. But if they continue down this road, I can very much see a world where Netflix's crown ends up slipping off of its head, because these cancellations cannot continue. And also, let's not forget that Netflix has been closing out a lot of its legacy series like Stranger Things, right, which is now approaching its final season. And so whilst it's been cancelling a whole bunch of series, it's meant that it doesn't really have many replacements for that staple show that everyone can gather around and check out. And I think that's going to come back and bite them in the ass in just a few years' time. Now, another reason why these cancellations really piss me off is because it's like we're forgetting that sometimes shows just need time to grow. Shows need time to grow and find an audience and develop and build. Like, what? Why is this a lost concept? Like, why is this not being taken into consideration? It annoys me to no end. It feels like these companies have come to the conclusion that if a series doesn't immediately hit in the first 48 hours or whatever the algorithm says, then it's a colossal flop and colossal failure. But actually, if you take a chance on some of these shows, then maybe it will build an audience, okay? Maybe, you know, people will find out about it, they'll start talking about it, word of mouth will spread, and then people will check it out on the platform. Or maybe it will take more than one season for it to get to that point, but sometimes you need to take a risk. Sometimes you need to take a chance on the show and believe in its potential. That is what is missing from these streamers, a belief in the potential of a series. They don't believe in the potential anymore. They just follow what the algorithm or the AI says, and if the AI says that it's a flop, that's it gets the chop. And it's just really frustrating because we have seen millions upon millions of examples of shows, both from this streaming era, but also like millions of years before that, right? All of these long running shows that may not have hit immediately in their first seasons, but they got second seasons, third seasons, and that's when the audience really started to grow and it became huge sensations. I mean, that's literally what happened with Breaking Bad. Like, Breaking Bad had very low viewership initially, and then it just started to grow and build, and now it's one of the most famous and highly praised shows ever made. So the fact that these studios and these streamers just don't have that belief in the potential of a show anymore, it's really frustrating and angering, because we've seen time and time again that when you take a chance on some of these projects, especially projects that are well received and that do have a devoted audience, even if they are smaller in numbers, if you don't take a chance on them, then first of all, you won't get future hits like a Breaking Bad or a Mad Men anymore. Like, it just won't happen, or it's less likely to happen. And second of all, as is my case, people will lose confidence in you and faith in you because you seem to be losing faith in the audience and in the creatives. And another thing that's closely related to this is advertising. Speaking of advertising, but I'm not talking about third-party advertisers. I'm talking about the studios and the streamers advertising, or lack thereof, because these streamers are notorious for doing the bare minimum when it comes to marketing and advertising their new projects. I mean, depending on the talent attached and the type of project that it is, and if that project has subsequent seasons following a huge success like a Squid Game or a Stranger Things, right? That's when they get a big push. But for the most part, 99.999% of the stuff on these streaming platforms do not get advertised. And that just makes it even more frustrating, because you're telling me that you're cancelling this show that's actually really good. You're cancelling this really good show because of low viewership, when you yourself failed to advertise. You yourself failed to let anyone know that it was dropping this weekend. Like, you actually have to advertise the series to get a larger audience. And if you're not going to advertise it, then at the very least give it a chance to build an audience organically, because clearly you have no interest in facilitating that through advertising. And yes, I know that it's annoying that advertising costs money. Yeah, I know. Boo-hoo. But yeah, you're gonna have to spend that money to bring people's attention to that project, because if you believe in that project, again, it goes back to the belief in the potential. If you believe in that project and you believe that people will enjoy it if only they could get their eyes on it, then yeah, you'll determine that it's worth spending those extra dollars to bring it to people's attention. And the only way that you can do that is through advertising. And honestly, I don't even believe in this myth that advertising is always super expensive. We're not talking about like an Avengers movie level of advertising here. We don't need the billboards, we don't need the bus ads, we don't need all of that. We can use social media. You can literally use social media, which you already have anyway. And you can also have those quirky little interviews, like going on Hot Ones or having the cast play with puppies. Like, there are all these different ways to advertise these days that are cheaper than the traditional ones. And so this thing of like, oh, they don't want to spend money on advertising because it's expensive, it doesn't even have to be. All you need is a business savvy, a social media manager, and they can like whip something up, and you already have those on hand, so you wouldn't even be hiring a new person. Like, let's get creative, let's get savvy. But no, they just want to do the bare minimum. They just want to put up a couple of posts on Twitter and call it a day, and that's just not enough. I mean, these shows are competing for our attention. They're not just competing against other TV shows, but also other forms of entertainment, and also like the real world, like touching grass, like all of these alternate forms of entertainment are constantly battling it out for our attention. And the final reason for why Cancellation Gate pisses me off, although I'm sure you guys have many more reasons that you can dive into in the comments, but the last one I'm going to talk about for today is let's do a bit of let's do a bit of peeping. Let's do a bit of paying attention, because it has come to my attention. I've been paying attention, okay? It's become very clear to me that there are certain types of shows that are more likely to be cancelled than others. Oh, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Yes, let's talk about it, because it seems like certain types of shows get more chances, or certain types of filmmakers get more chances than others, but that's a different discussion. Same thing with the shows. Certain types of shows get more chances than others, okay? And I am, of course, talking about any show with representation. I am, of course, talking about shows with racial or ethnic representation of the LGBTQ community, representation of people with disabilities, representation of people who are neurodivergent. Any shows that don't fit neatly into that box of normalcy, okay, that is defined by white supremacy, yeah, those shows are in danger, girl. Oh, you in danger. You in danger. And so that's one of the reasons why I rejoiced when I saw saw that Supercell was actually renewed for a second season. But simultaneously, why I wasn't surprised that The Acolyte was cancelled. We have seen time and time again that the shows that dare to fit outside of the box tend to be put under higher amounts of scrutiny, and so the criteria for success is like increased, right? The goalpost is moved, and if they don't meet that level, then they end up getting the axe like automatically. So it's ruthless out there, in particular for those kinds of shows, and it's just really frustrating. It's really annoying because remember in 2020 when Hollywood was paying lip service, pretending like they cared about, you know, people of color, minority groups, and they were like, oh, we're gonna do our best to champion people of color, to bring out more projects highlighting their story. And then when they do trickle in a couple of projects here and there, they end up being cancelled after just one season, after the bare minimum of a marketing campaign. So that's it from me, guys. Now that I told you guys my thoughts on all of these cancellations going on in Hollywood, it's time for you guys to let me know what you think of this topic down in the comments below. Please be sure to subscribe to catch new videos coming up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.